Regis, you have Jim's audio, right?
We're not on yet.
I mean, you have Jim's audio, so you'll hear when he's ready on his end.
Yeah.
When he says he's ready, then you can hit your switch.
And we are up. John, we're ready whenever you are.
Okay. Conneaut City Council for July 27th, 2020 is now in session. Roll call, please.
Council President, Mr. Arcaro.
Present.
Mr. Emery.
Here.
Mr. Gaw.
Here.
Mr. Kozeski.
Here.
Mrs. Ledford.
Here.
Mrs. McVoy.
Here.
Mr. Moisio.
Here.
City Manager, Mr. Hockaday.
Here.
Finance Director, Mr. Williams.
Here.
Okay, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
The flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, move on to approval of the meeting minutes for July 13th, 2020. Are there any alterations or corrections? If none, is there a motion?
I make a motion.
A second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Goff.
Mr. Arcaro.
Yes.
Mr. Emery.
Yes.
Mr. Gaw.
Yes.
Mr. Kozeski.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford.
Yes.
Mrs. McVoy.
Yes.
Mr. Moisio.
Yes.
Okay, the meeting minutes for July 13th have been approved. We do have an awards presentation tonight in absentia. An employee of the month, Molly Turns. Ms. O'Connell, if you would read the record.
Certificate of Achievement, Employee of the Month. The employee for the month of July is Molly Turnus. Molly is married to Mark and has 2 children living in Monroe Township. She began working part-time at the Conneaut Law Director's Office in November 2018 without any legal training or experience, but brought an unquenchable desire to learn, a strong desire to help other people, and a compelling mental discipline to make it happen. Within a few weeks after Molly was hired, she learned how to handle police reports, prepare criminal charges, prepare subpoenas, answer discovery, work with victims, police, and court personnel, and to help ensure victims' rights. From March 2020 to late July 2020, Molly filled in full-time when the paralegal Jennifer took FMLA to give birth and spend time with her new baby. During this time, Molly continued to manage the criminal prosecution docket, working even harder to coordinate, quote, Zoom/whereby virtual meetings and hearings with the court, victims, and police personnel, and working to clear up a backlog of cases brought on by the COVID pandemic. During this time and without any other assistance, Molly learned to handle and prepare ordinances, purchase orders, deeds, easements, contracts, civil complaints and injunctions, and other legal documents while maintaining an expanding criminal docket. Molly is always helpful and courteous, gives 110% of herself to everything, and frequently worked after hours to make sure cases are ready for the following day. As Molly returns to part-time status, the city owes her our deep gratitude and appreciation for stepping up to the plate under very difficult circumstances and ensuring that important city business continued during a paralyzing pandemic. Signed, John Arcaro, Council President, Terry Moiseo, Council Member.
Hey, very good. Congratulations to Molly, and we appreciate her service.
Congratulations. Well done.
Okay, moving on. We have no special presentations tonight. Does anybody have any citizen comments?
I have none.
Okay, any communications?
No, I do not.
Does council have any communications?
None.
Okay, moving on to reports of our administrators, beginning with the city manager, Mr. Hockaday.
Unmute myself first. It's been a couple weeks. I gotten rusty. So I wanted to touch on, we did have an economic development committee meeting. We discussed various forthcoming projects with the economic development committee. We did receive the final deed for the Conneaut Coastal Wetlands project. We had the utilities committee meeting this past week where we discussed various items with council as well, relating to sanitation, street lighting, and a couple others. We had our sewer interceptor cleaning pre-con this past week, and OPWC and Chestnut, OPWC Middle and Chestnut paving, the milling work, depending on weather, will either be starting possibly later this week, depending on how rainy it gets. So that project is going to be starting. Bridgestorm still moving forward. As I told you before, the Reesburg project is off our calendar now altogether. And we have OPWC Chestnut Phase 3 is in design. I'm anticipating a fast turnaround that either by the second meeting in August or even first or second meeting in August, we might have something that will be ready to go out to bid for that. So most of the design work was already done before it got placed on hold. So I'm hoping that'll turn around rather quickly. And then we'll also have Route 21 Waterline Phase 2 here in August, most likely as well. So we'll look to council to approve for. The other thing that I wanted to draw out there is OPWC is going to hold a 936 that came out this last week. So we'll have to sign up whatever projects we think we can against that would go to the application this year and go into award July of 2021. So I kind of have a short list together. We haven't announced how we're going to handle that as a district yet. Once that comes out, I'll have to bring that to council for authorization to apply for those grants as well. But that does look like it's moving forward. So that's very good news. Little stuff. I'll go if anybody has any questions about anything in my report. I'm happy to provide any further detail without.
Any questions for the city manager?
Mr. Hockaday, did you say when the milling would start?
Tomorrow, unless it's raining really hard.
Okay.
So maybe the day after tomorrow. So it depends.
All right. Thank you.
Tomorrow, and they're going to start on middle first, most likely.
All right.
Okay, any other questions for the city manager? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the finance director, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Arcaro. I just had a very brief report. I forwarded something from the county auditor regarding the local government fund revenue estimates. For 2020, the county auditor was estimating about $2.5 million for the county. In the actual for January through July was about $1.3 million, or an 8.2% decrease from last year. They also provided an estimate for 2021. The estimate is $2.245 million for next year, and that results in a proportionate share for the city, a decrease of about 11.7%. Now, for the tax budget, I didn't have these numbers available when I prepared the tax budget, so I did put in or factored in a decrease for the local government, but I factored in about a 10% decrease, which is pretty close to the 11.7% that the county is projecting. We're only about 1.7% off. When we complete our final budget in November, December of this year, I will update those figures, but for the tax budget purposes, it should be sufficient. As far as income tax, I've been following that closely. Today, we are up 11.14% for the month, but for the year, we're still down about 16.5%, or $337,000. That's a significant amount to make up by the end of the year. I'm not sure we're able to do that. We're still processing income tax returns. We'll probably won't be able to process everything by the end of the month, but by probably the first week of August, we should be able to do that. The other thing, when you get your reports this month, the general fund is pretty low at this point. I contacted the county to see when they're going to distribute the second half real estate settlement. I was told it would probably occur within the first week of August. Normally we receive them in July, and it infuses some cash into the budget. So for July, you're probably going to see some minimal amounts in the general fund and a few other funds as well. So I just wanted to warn you on that. Then as far as the audit is concerned, the auditors are wrapping up. They still have a few compliance questions and compliance issues that they're looking at. And we're trying to work through those right now. As far as the opinion on the financial statements, I sent council an email regarding the opinion on the financials, or some issue with the presentation, or a difference of opinion as to how internal balances were supposed to be presented on the CAFR. Now, the state has recommended a particular way of presenting those balances. Our auditor disagrees a little bit. They agree in concept, but the way it's presented in the statement. So the compromise was, we will present it the way the state had indicated, in conjunction with GASB and some of their recommendations. But for next year, we will present it as the auditor wants to see it. So I just wanted to let you know, and that was part of the reason why we haven't received the opinion on the financial statements. Now, we did get a 1-month extension, so the opinion, we really don't need it until July 31st. And we should have it by Wednesday. I spoke to our auditor today, so we should have the auditor's opinion by Wednesday of this week, in time to submit our report. But like I said, there's always the compliance issue, and then the opinion on the financial statement. So the compliance is still continuing. There is nothing earth-shaking about the compliance. I mean, I think we might have a couple recommendations, but I don't believe there will be any citations in this report. And I do believe we will receive a clean opinion on the financial statement. So as soon as those are finalized, I will distribute those to council. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, very good. Any questions for the finance director?
None.
Okay. If not, we'll move on to Law Director, Mr. Newcomb.
Nothing specific tonight. Kyle told me last minute and make sure I'm there for you guys. So if you need anything, let me know. All right.
Appreciate that.
No
In case
problem.
somebody had a question. Okay, move on to reports of our standing committees.
I have a report, Mr. President. The Utilities Committee met July 23rd at 5:30 at Township Park, which was very lovely, I must say. We discussed the sanitation issue, came to conclusion of sending a letter of request to all the haulers that are in town, asking for some feedback, and then asking them to attend the next utilities meeting, which will be August 27th at 5:30. We also discussed the street lighting lamp replacement and looking to go into a voluntary phase out program where any of our lights that need replaced will then gradually be replaced with LEDs. And I think that's up later on our agenda also. Miscellaneous, we talked about Mr. Hockaday told us that they purchased a bucket truck that was used, good price. So that will come in handy for our city, and we much appreciate that. And that's it for our Utilities Committee. If anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Mrs. Ledford? Okay, if not, any other committee reports?
President Arcaro, I just have some recaps on 3 of the meetings I attended in the last few weeks. As Mr. Hockaday pointed out, we did have the economic development meeting on Friday the 17th. As he covered some of the points, a lot of good things. I just want to let everyone know, a lot of good things that Mr. Hockaday is working on for our city. So I personally just want to say publicly right now, thank you, Mr. Hockaday, for moving all the bits and pieces that you've been working on some of the projects. Also, I attended the health department meeting on Wednesday the 8th. Nichelle did give a full in-depth report over the COVID and what's happening in Conneaut. They just wanted me to reiterate, please make sure that you're following the governor's mandate, which is wear the mask, social distance, and keep washing your hands and doing all the stuff we're supposed to be doing. Conneaut Convention and Visitors Bureau, they had a meeting on Tuesday the 14th. They wanted everyone to know that they are still taking memberships. I'm going to mess this up, so I'm going to read it from my phone. For anyone who would like to participate, any council members, I recommend signing up to be a part of the Conventioners and Visitors Bureau. It's www.visitconneautohio.com to sign up. Membership for community membership is for free, and then business is, I think it's $50. Don't quote me on any of that. And also they're doing their annual meeting. Also wanted to welcome the public and council to that. That is going to be September 8th at Buccia's Winery at 6 p.m. They will require you to wear a face mask, and there will be social distancing. So those are the 3 meetings I had participated in this last few weeks.
Okay, any questions for Mrs. McVoy? Ms. McVoy, could you send those 2 things out by email, perhaps, maybe?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, any other committee reports? Okay, move on to liaison reports.
President Arcaro, I do have a liaison report. Council met with the school board for Conneaut Area City Schools on July 20th at 6 p.m. at the Conneaut High School. Mr. Hockaday updated the Board of Education on the update for Chestnut Street Phase 3, and also did an update on Chestnut and Middle Road. Mr. Hockaday has just gone over those updates, so I won't reiterate that, but Also, then the board updated us on the opening of the schools. Anybody who wants a detailed plan can go to the school's website. They are handing out Chromebooks. The health department has been involved in every step of this. It's not going to be a normal 5-day opening. It's going to be a max of 4 days. There will be no students in the school building on Mondays. A group of students will go to school Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then a second group will attend school Thursday and Friday. And this is to divide up the students to allow social distancing and to be in compliance with the health department. Facial masks will be required on grades 3 through 12. For transportation, there'll be only 2 students in a seat and they must wear a mask on the bus. There'll be only 2 kids for each cafeteria table. There also is the remote learning plan. It's called SOAR, and parents can learn about that through the Conneaut Area City Schools website. For athletics, right now what's been okayed is golf, tennis, volleyball, and band. There is a new band director. His name is Nate Wise. As of right now, they have about 170 students that have signed up for the remote learning plan. They plan on adding some custodial staff, which will help with the cleaning of the building and keeping everything healthy and safe. And that is my liaison report. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, very good. All right, we'll move on to ordinance and resolutions on the table. We do have one ordinance on the table, and that is 55-20.
An ordinance to close the following streets on October 9th, 2020 from 5:30 p.m. until 6:15 p.m. for the purpose of the Conneaut High School Homecoming Parade and declaring an emergency.
Okay, Mr. Hockaday, do you have an update on that?
I don't. This has been referred to the health department for their review. We're just going to wait on their review. I think they're going to recommend we wait till we're a little bit closer to that October date before making any kind of judgment call. If it were today, I do know festivals, events, and specifically parades are prohibited by the state. So that could change. So I would just recommend leaving it right where it's at for now. And as we draw near to October, to see if any of that guidance or updates from the state change.
Okay, so we will leave ordinance 55-20 on the table. Moving on to our second reading ordinances, and we have 2 of those in second reading. And we will begin with ordinance 54-20.
An ordinance amending City Codified Ordinance 1375.02 and not declaring an emergency.
This is an amendment to our rental inspection code. This is a loophole specifically around land contracts or unrecorded land contracts as being exempt. While it wasn't expressly so before, we're making it clear that if you're using a land contract as a vehicle, that it's still subject to rental inspection. Recommend this go to a third reading.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Hockaday on ordinance 54-20? Okay, Mrs. McBoy.
At this time, I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance 54-20.
We're just gonna set it to a third.
Oh, I thought we were in third.
Nope, we're in second.
We're in second.
Okay, then I move it to third reading.
Okay,
ordinance 54-20, please.
All right, ordinance 54-20 has been moved to a third reading. Moving on to ordinance 56-20.
An ordinance to authorize the use of golf carts and other low-speed motor vehicles and not declaring an emergency.
This, as we discussed before, has a wide variety of changes in terms of allowing low speed and under speed vehicles on roadways with an inspection, in that inspection process. It's like for 20, we recommend 5620 be moved to a third reading.
Okay, has anybody had any feedback from the public regarding this ordinance, or do you have any questions or discussion?
I do.
Mr.
I do, Angel.
Okay, Mrs. McCoy.
So, not to say anything that's going to upset anyone, but I had to sit on someone's front porch over the weekend and watch some golf carts fly up and down the road to get to Broad Street Mini Mart. For people who are needing to know, who do they need to call when they're seeing this occurrence happen? I know, so does everyone else on council, but so everyone who's watching know who they need to call, because I watched it. They were trying to get to the mini mart before it closed. They ran 2 stop signs. I literally got off the porch and I got yelled at because it was none of my business, according to the person. So I did inform the police officer about the situation, but there are rules and regulations to these golf carts and public safety. So if you could just reiterate who the constituents can report this to. I did see a police officer chase down one, so I know they're enforcing it when they're notified, but could you just reiterate, Jim, to who they need to call the appropriate people?
Yeah, a motor vehicle is a motor vehicle is a motor vehicle. That's going to be the police department. And whether it's before this legislation or after this legislation, that's not going to change. The police department would enforce that. Whether you're on a bicycle or a golf cart, legal or illegal, running a stop sign is still illegal. And even if under this, if you had a legal golf cart that was properly licensed, insured, and everything else, running a stop sign would still be illegal. Certainly driving it intoxicated would be illegal. Driving it without a license would still be illegal. Regardless, they're still motor vehicles and they're subject to all the rules and regulations of it as every other motor vehicle.
And I would add, on top of all of that, right at this point in time, there is no legislation passed in the city, so these vehicles are illegal right out the gate.
That's correct.
That's why I'd like to hear some more public comment on this. Hopefully the public would want to give us a little more comment on this particular ordinance.
You say you did hear any comment, Mr. Mozia?
No, I said I would like to hear some more public comment on this ordinance as we move forward here. I haven't heard any, but I'd like to hear some if there's anybody who would want to comment on this particular ordinance.
Yes, I have not heard any either. Okay. If there's no other comments on this ordinance, Mr. Emery?
I'd like to move ordinance 5620 to a third reading.
Okay, ordinance 56-20 has been moved to a third reading. Move on to our first reading ordinances. We have 2 in first reading, and we will begin with 59-20.
An ordinance to authorize the city manager to execute an LED street lighting agreement with the Cleveland Illuminating Company and declaring an emergency.
Okay, Mr. Hockaday, want to add anything else?
We covered this in our utility meeting this past week. And just to explain to the public what it is they're going to be transitioning away from traditional light heads, whether that's high pressure, and mercury vapors have been banned for a long time, but there's still some out there. As these heads on public street lights go bad, there's an opt-in program where we can just request that they be replaced with an LED. Obviously, LEDs are far more energy efficient, and their tariff, because they're not by the illuminating company, are on a monthly basis, are significantly less with an LED product or an LED equivalency than your traditional high pressure sodiums or mercury vapors. It was the request of the utility committee that the exact tariffs for the various wattages. I've requested that. As soon as I receive that, I'm happy to share that with council. This is an opt-in program. We are not charged for a head replacement on a broken lamp. They would just replace it with an LED with equivalency if we should opt into this program. So it's my understanding, based on our utility committee conversation, you wanted to see those wattages and tariffs first, and then we can consider it. So if you want to move this to a second reading, I'm perfectly okay with that. There is no timeline on this.
Mr. Hockaday, what options are we looking at? Are we looking at option number 3?
Yeah, it would be option number 3 in the contract piece that I sent, where as lamps break, they would be automatically replaced with an LED. You can at any time request lamps be replaced with LED, but presently, if we request a functioning Cobra Head style lamp to be replaced with an LED, I believe there is approximately a $300 service charge associated with replacing an existing functioning lamp head. So the advantage of this program is, as they go bad, they get replaced, and we don't pay the service fee, the $300 service fee.
Okay.
So you're saying you don't want to declare it as an emergency? Correct.
I believe the utility committee wanted to see those rates first. I mean, unless I misunderstood that.
No,
Okay.
that's correct. That was my question: is what is the reason for the declaration of emergency? We're not under any time limit, correct?
No, there is no time limit. You can move
so,
second reading.
Okay. Any other comments or questions regarding this ordinance? Okay, if not, is there a motion to proceed?
I motion to move it to second reading.
Okay, ordinance 59-20 has been moved to a second reading. Move on to ordinance 60-20, or correction, resolution 60-20.
A resolution supporting the Asheville County Medical Center, ACMC, and its skilled nursing unit and OB-GYN departments.
Okay, as you know, I did request this resolution, and you can see the nomenclature there that Mr. Smith came up with, and it does suffice, I felt, other than there are other facilities in the county for long-term care, but the biggest problem that we're going to have is with the OB unit. So is there any further discussion on this resolution? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to proceed.
Mr. Arcaro, I'd like to make a motion to act on resolution 60-20.
We'll need to suspend the 3 reading.
We need to waive a 3 reading?
Yes.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. We'd have to waive the 3 reading. All right,
correct.
Can I make a motion to waive the 3 reading rule on ordinance, or I'm sorry, resolution 60-20?
Okay, there's a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on resolution 60-20. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mrs. Ledford.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes.
Mrs. McVoy?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Mosio, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
I'd like to make a motion to act on resolution 60-20.
So motion to act on resolution 60-20. Is there a second?
Angel McVoy seconds.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes.
Mrs. McVoy,
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Okay, resolution 60-20 is passed. Mrs. McConnell, could you see to it that a copy of the resolution is forwarded to Asheville County Medical Center?
Yes, I will do so.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to unfinished and old business. Hearing none. We'll move on to miscellaneous business.
Mr. Arcaro, I have something for Mr. Hockaday.
Mr. Kozefsky.
Thank you. Mr. Hockaday, there seems to be a situation occurring with Waste Management where they're picking up their toters and when off the tree lawn, and when they put them back, they're replacing them and putting them back into the roadway. I've seen it several times in my ward, and I've seen it on Main Street and State Street. If you can contact somebody from the company, I believe that's violation of the ordinance regarding injurious material on the roadway. And if not, there's a section in the Ohio Revised Code regarding that. So if you can bring that to their attention, I'll forward you a photo of one also. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I will do that.
Mr. Arcaro, I would like to ask Mr. Hockaday one question. Probably should have asked earlier.
Mr. Goff.
Mr. Hockaday, summer help. When's there, are we about done with the summer mowers?
We're getting close, and I wish it were a uniform answer. Several of our summer workers, which have been very good this year, because of COVID, have a rolling timeline to return back to college in most cases, which they have kind of advanced start times. A couple have already left. I believe we have 3 more presently that'll work through, I believe, maybe another week or 2 at most. And then by the middle of August, they will all be gone. So that's fairly typical because school does tend to start up in August, but we lost several earlier than anticipated this year.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any miscellaneous business? Okay, I do have one comment under miscellaneous business, and this is in reference to the crosswalks going in on Broad Street and Lake Road for after the paving project. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw this. And for those of you that don't know, and those of you that I'm sure recall, pedestrian safety was one of my pet peeves since my early days on the police department. And with the addition of these crosswalks at every intersection in this project area that I've seen, we're moving once again toward a walk safe city. And I definitely appreciate the state doing that. That's all I have. Okay, if there's no other comments under miscellaneous business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Goff.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kozefsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes.
Mrs. McVoy?
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo?
Yes.
Okay, the meeting for July 27th is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.